All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Changing it up this week.
Yeah, so real quick, this is for all the podcast listeners. I'm going to do my best to make this make sense if you are audio only, but this is very much visual representation. So what I have on my screen right now is a template that we use at Garage Gym Athlete. So concurrent training template. One way we program. Now, this is the micro view. This is like looking at a week. There are a lot of other templates and things to take into consideration before you just go off and do these things on your own. I do want to like throw that caveat out there, but I do want to talk about how this works and how it can help keep an athlete balanced. So we'll go through this template and show you, how you could program for a week. Sound good?
Yep.
Good. All right. Joe, you just throw in any 2 cents you have because you program here as well. He programs the strength.
That top bar is where I live.
And that's what I want to talk about. So I'll start highlighting these things. What we have here is a 5-day week, a 5-day training week, assuming that you take 2 rest days per week. And then I'm going to go down the left-hand side. So the first thing that we have, we'll just talk about the areas first. So strength and prehab. So strength and prehab, what are you thinking when you are thinking strength and prehab?
From strength perspective, this is basically the core of how I start my waves. So how I want to, whatever stimulus I want for them to have for that particular wave and cycle. So whether it's we're going heavy, we're going explosive, we're going hypertrophy, this is usually when Prehap's chart comes in to kind of set the tone of what I want. And then from there, the accessory work is kind of based off of to complement, but also work a secondary goal. So the strength kind of sets the tone, at least for me, for the strength track.
Yeah. And so what he said, we do a lot of P chart on the strength stuff. So Prehap's chart, we have a video on that if you want to check it out. Goes in depth on Prehap's chart. Another thing to think about is prehab. This is where you're kind of getting into exercising. Really got it from Westside Barbell. It's where you're doing a lot of like high reps. You can consider a lot of things prehab, but in our programming, it's like high repetition, very low weight. It's bringing blood to ligaments and tendons and strengthening those so you don't have overuse injuries as much. So something to think about. Next, we have Metcon. So metabolic conditioning. This does not mean CrossFit workout. And that's what a lot of people think when they hear Metcon. I think mainly because Nike named their shoes Metcons. I think that's the problem. But metabolic conditioning, it does typically mean that we are just hitting a specific energy system when we're doing metabolic conditioning. So that could be mixed modal aerobic, that could be mixed modal anaerobic, like more CrossFit style stuff. It could be on an Airdyne, it could be on a rower, it could be running. So metabolic conditioning, training a specific energy system. So I'll put energy systems. You have anything to say on Metcon?
Yeah, sometimes this includes rest. I know a lot of people, when you're speaking of Metcon before, you just think of like, okay, it's a circuit at a certain intensity, whether it's long or short, but there could be a lot of rest within this Metcon depending on what energy system you're using or what you want. I know specifically speaking of like Endure Track, there's some where he's doing like a 40-minute circuit nonstop, but then there's some where it's still 40 minutes long, but there's a 5-minute rest somewhere baked in there because you're going super high intense for like 3 minutes and then you're resting.
100%. All right. Next, third of 5 would be Gen Fit. So Gen Fit is just a cute name for general fitness. And this is where we don't lose sight of longer form oxidative. And I feel like I always have to explain this. So within the 3 energy systems, the longest energy system is oxidative or your aerobic energy system. And how we look at it is it's trained 2 different ways. So when we train it in a metabolic conditioning form or an energy system training form, we're doing kind of what Joe's talking about. So we're hitting 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, and that's how we're training the oxidative pathway. When we talk about general fitness, this moves more towards long aerobic conditioning. So typically going to be zone 2, zone 3, longer duration stuff. It's the same energy system, but they're trained differently. So one is trained more interval style, one is trained more, long, slow distance running or aerobic work, something like that. So that is Gen Fit. And so you have anything on GenFit?
Easy to specify for certain conditioning or whether you want to hit and you don't want to mess with whether it's certain exercises or, or just keep it simple and just do intervals for some sort of conditioning. That's how GenFit can be used.
Yeah. All right. Next we have Z lift. So such an odd one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Z lift, circle that on the screen. So the reason it's comes with Z lift is because it came from Zercher specifically. So it reminds the programmers to do holds, to do carries, to do a lot of different odd lifts, not necessarily odd objects, but odd, not programmed regularly. And so Z lift, it works a lot of stability, isometric holds, things like that. And it's something that should be programmed at least once a week. Anything you have to say on Z lift?
I actually do a ton of this in strength, whether it's, we do a lot. I usually typically have one wave where it's fairly weighted carry intensive. And I always have some sort of either ISO or negative can kind of, but not too much. But yeah, some definitely ISOs and some holds and weighted carries. Yeah, weighted carries for sure and Z lift. And I think this section is also one of those that are easily missed with programming. You either do a bunch of strength, okay, get your Metcon in, okay, then go do some conditioning or do some core. Z lift is just kind of one of those hopped over that you could think would fit into other places, but to specifically segregate it can make a big difference.
Yeah, and that's 4 out of the 5. And again, this is one of our programming templates. We have month-long programming templates. We're hitting a bunch of different areas of training, especially on hard to kill programming that we do. We have body geometry templates, and we could probably cover these things, all of them eventually. But this is one of them. And the goal of using a template like this is, like Joe saying, like, you don't want to start missing things. And so this reminds you areas of training to hit, but what you would still miss if you only followed this template is you wouldn't have movement specific areas. So you could still be missing. And that's where our body geometry kind of comes into play. So last on our screen here is going to be the daily. And the daily can be a lot of different things, in my opinion. So the daily could be abdominal work. You could say core. It can be reverse hyper. It can be obliques. It can be barbell rotations. It can be isometric holds like front leaning rest or planks. It's the most skipped. I like to tell people skipped programming we have, like, because people do all the other stuff and they're like, I don't want to do abs. That's what they call it. I don't want to do
suck
abs
sometimes.
Yeah, abs do suck. But I mean, your core, for lack of a better word, is very important. If you don't have strong abs, you can't have strong lifts. And so that's something that people should really know. And then if you don't have a strong core and you try strong lifts, you'll get injured. So it's something that you really do need to focus on. How do you feel about the daily? How do you program it?
Yeah, I guess that this is also, I mean, Z lift and daily kind of have an overlap to me sometimes, especially, well, I mentioned weighted carries already. And that's,
sure,
to me, is an important thing with strength, because if I want you to start to lift heavier weights, then I need you to be able to support said heavier weights. But again, there's still ISO holds in core, which I think are some of the worst. And then rotations is also a pretty important thing to it. Bands is also great to use in the daily.
Yeah. So those are the basic 5 areas. And now how do we program this out? Well, we do 5 blocks per day and 1 block equals 10 minutes. And this is my first shared screen video. My handwriting's awful. I'll get better if we do more of these. But that's the basic framework. And so how you have to look at these things, you don't have to hit all 5 every single day. And that's something that people often confuse. So what we're looking to do is, like, you might have 3 blocks of strength right here, and then you have 1 block of Z lift, and then you have 1 block of the daily. That's your 5 blocks. Day 1 would be complete. And then you could do something long oxidative, like the GenFit that we're talking about, at long zone 2 run. That could be 5 blocks here. Day 2 would be done. And so you kind of work through this system, and then you also start to see the holes. So if I'm already 2 days into this 5-day programming and I'm like, okay, well, it looks like we got some strength, we got some holds on the Z lift, and we have some daily. Looks like I got Gen Fit covered. Well, it's going to be pretty obvious from here that I probably need to do 2 blocks of energy system training within Metcon. Daily is called daily for a reason. You don't often want to skip it unless you do have something that takes up the entire time. And then I have 3 blocks left. So I might do, I have 1 block here. And then I would probably throw in some strength, maybe more like prehab. Is that 2, 3, 4, 5? Yep, there we go. And so you see how this works. And now it's starting to fill out your calendar a little bit more. And if you're like, okay, well, if I'm just going to do the daily every day, let's just mark it down. And then that leaves you 4 blocks for the day. And you see how quickly things get eaten up. And if you're like, okay, I want my last strength day, do 3 blocks here. And then again, you could do some Gen Fit and do 1 block there. That day would be done. And then you could do something like, just to make it easy on me, 4 blocks. And now this is looking fairly well-rounded. So we have we're hitting our blocks each and every single day. And it looks like I'm not really missing any areas. Do you feel like have I missed an area? Do I look weak anywhere?
No, right around, we're right around 6 or so for everything. Daily should just be probably 1 block on each. And Z lift is something that you fill in the gaps. You're probably going to have the least amount of blocks when it comes to Z lift, but it's a complementary thing. Z lift, like I said before, it can spill over into daily. It can even spill over into Metcon. You can add your holds or odd if lifts into your Metcon and be part of that as well. But it's just one of those things that's easy to fill in a gap.
Yeah. So this is the basic framework, guys. So if you can't tell, we're experimenting with a lot of different content for the podcast and for YouTube. So if you guys are liking the content, please let us know. We really do, programming is kind of our thing, and it's probably what we've provided the least amount of content on, just because I feel like to give out the entire method, while I'm not opposed to it, it just, once it's gone, it's gone. What else are we going to talk about? But if you guys really like it, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the Facebook group if you're there, and we will do more programming videos. This is kind of like a quick overview of how a week works, but we could go a lot more in the weeds with a lot of different stuff. So that's it for this one, guys. If you are on YouTube watching this one, go ahead and subscribe. So when we have new content come out, you will be notified of that. Like this video, leave us some comments. If you're a podcast listener, thank you so much for listening on the podcast. A 5-star review and a positive comment goes a long way, and I'd really appreciate that. But if you want to head over to the YouTube channel and check out these kind of things, I would definitely recommend it. We are Garage Gym Athlete on YouTube. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching or listening. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.